Hi, I'm Justin Spring. I'm a poet. I have a channel here on YouTube. It's called Soul Speak Spring, and you can see some of my videos on poetry and my poetry videos and some of my documentaries on the use of poetry. But what I wanted to talk to you about today is if you want to make poems, if you're just starting out, or if you've been writing poems for some time, or if you just want to make your poems better. I've been also teaching poetry for a very long time, and I have some methods that are really quite different from what other poets or teachers would tell you. And I thought I'd just share a couple of them, because in a couple of minutes I can have you writing poems that are real poems. You know, poems aren't distinguished by the fact that they have rhymes or the fact that they use metaphors or similes. A simile being something like, he struck me like a house, you know, and then in terms of metaphors, he was a house, you know, you make a direct connection there. Those we use in ordinary speech, you know, and what makes a poem is that it comes from somewhere deep inside us. If it doesn't come that way, of its own accord, it has to come of its own accord. You really can't sit down to make a poem. You can you coax it up, and if you're lucky, it will happen, you know. But by and large, that it has to come of its own accord. And what happens when it does is it always expresses a story about our emotions, how we're feeling. Poems are about emotions, and they have as their source our deeper emotions of love or loneliness or whatever it happens to be. And they work their way out as a story. You know, that story can take a lot of forms, as we know now in poetry, but the earliest form of poetry, and the one that is still popular with many poets, is just a story poem. It just comes out as a story, just straightforward as a story that you would tell to your friends, except there's something different about it that you'll detect. It has a kind of rhythm to it, and that rhythm is imparted by the unconscious. It just happens. The speech happens to be, or the writing will take a certain kind of the rhythm to it, and it has a way of working itself out which will bring you to a moment of what I will call ecstasy, just a little moment of heightened awareness. What's happening is that something within you is becoming conscious, and a poem is in us as much as our eyes and our genes and our hair is. It's just a way of expressing very deep emotions. It's been with us since the beginning of our humanness, if you want to call it that way, okay? It's only in the past 2,000 years or so that we've taken up the art of writing poetry, but poetry existed as a spoken art. Just speak out your feelings, but it came from a different source than your ordinary stories for tens of thousands of years, you know? But they all have the same source. They have the source of the unconscious. So to really make poems, you have to forget all of the nonsense you've heard about rhythm and meter and image and metaphor. They'll happen naturally if you get to the right source. If you don't get to the right source, your poems will be not poems. They'll just be stories, which might be exciting or this or that, but they never really reach that moment of intimacy that we all enjoy in a poem, that we can touch others with, or that touches something in ourselves and makes us whole. And I think what happens in a poem is your deeper self kind of unites with your conscious self in making of this song. It's always directed by the unconscious, and then you have something that's quite beautiful. I'm going to do some for you without telling you how to do poems. I can just do them for you, and I'm going to use a method that I developed many years ago in working with all kinds of people to have them get in touch with their deeper emotions and to express them as poems, which are always beautiful and which are always healing and will just move you to a much better place, you know. And I'm going to do it by, I have, as you'll look on your TV now, you have 7 words posted on it. One is father, mountain, love, lonely, house, belly, and blue. We put them up there at random, okay? And I haven't used these before. I just put them up, and I'm not going to look at them. And I'm going to look at them, and I'm going to do a poem for you. And if you just listen, just sit back and listen. In fact, you can close your eyes if you want. It doesn't make any difference. But you can watch me making a poem. And what will happen is something in you will awaken. It's as simple as that. There's nothing mysterious. It's just, that's the way we learn anything in life. Whether it's how to bat a ball or how to love someone, we have to see examples of it from our parents or from somebody who's a teacher or a coach or something. And then something in us responds. We never learn from ground zero. There's something in us that has all these methods. In our, you can call them our genes, our DNA, whatever you want to call it, it's inherited. In fact, our whole ability to make stories is inherited. We don't know how we do it, it just happens. And this is just a special kind of story, okay? So, forget everything you know about poetry and just open yourself to it. You have to meet poetry halfway, and I'm going to meet you halfway with this poem that I'm making for you with these words. And I'm going to use them just one at a time. I'm just going to look up and I'll have the first word my eyes are attracted to, I'm going to use, I'll let my unconscious suggest to me, or the muse you can call it, or your deeper self, or your soul, whatever it is, and out will come a first phrase. And then when I run out, I'll look at the second word, or any word in the list here that's on the screen, and it will prompt something else. The whole formation of the poem is done unconsciously. You don't have to worry about it. It's simply going to come out if you, and you can do this by writing as well. I like to speak them because it's easier. And it's a way to teach people what a poem is, something you will awaken. You won't have any control over it, it'll just awaken, and you'll know what a poem is. And so when your time comes to make one later on in this very short video, you will. So I've learned to start out these type of poems with, sometimes in my dreams, I, and then let my eye go to the list of words and let the word I be connected to the first word, all by my unconscious. I have no idea what's going to come out. And then when I run out of sentences or phrases, I'll look up again and I'll take a look at the list, and one of the words will pull a second series of phrases out of me, and so forth, and the poem will eventually form itself all by itself. You don't have to worry about how it's going to happen. And the words can be used in any order. It doesn't make any difference. You can use them twice if you want to, but generally the 7 words are enough to let the poem form around them. You can think of these as a kind of string around which the rock candy of the poem will form itself, and show you how instinctive it is and how automatic it is, and how you can use this if you're age 9 or age 90. It doesn't make any difference. And if you're an experienced poet, it will help you open the channel, the highway. You should have a highway between your unconscious or the muse and your conscious mind. And that's really the difference between Shakespeare and the ordinary poet. He had a highway running. There was no interruption. It just came up, okay? So we want to get to that stage. And this is the easiest way to establish that highway and know what it feels like. So when a poem starts to come to you, you'll feel that something wants to come up. You'll know how to let it come up on that highway and not interfere with it, just to get it down by writing it or by speaking it out, whatever you want to do. It makes no difference. Writing is more popular today, so fine. We'll do that. But let me speak them out for you. And the old method was done by people for tens of thousands of years, and then you'll get a feeling for it. Okay. Sometimes in my dreams, I see my father. He's standing on a mountain, high up in the sky. There's snow all around him in the blue sky. He looks so lonely. He has that little belly he got as he got older. It kind of shows through his shirt. There's no house to go to hide it anymore. He's been dead for many years. But he's still on the mountain, looking for me, and I'm still looking for him. We're looking to say I love you. And I'm going to do that right now. Dad, I love you. So, it just happens. You don't have to think much about it. And let me do another one for you. I can do these until the cows come home, as they say, to use an old cliche, because the unconscious always has lots of things to say. Before I start, I'm just going to end this section, and then I'm going to start a second one using a whole new set of words, and I'll do 3 or 4, and then you'll know how to do it, and then you can go ahead and there's a third section which just has lists and lists of words you can use, and which will help you get started. After that, there's a little section on how to make your own words to draw the poems out of you, and after that you won't need the words anymore, or you'll use them just as a kind of supercharger to get yourself going again, in case you start to try to make the poems yourself, by thinking them through. You don't want to think them through. You want them to come up naturally, okay? All right.